kingdoms of Egypt. During the 3000s BC, two kingdoms developed in Egypt. The kings of Upper Egypt wore white crowns. The kings of Lower Egypt wore red crowns. Uniting Egypt. Legends say that Narmer united the two kingdoms in about 3000 BC. This made him the first pharaoh, or king, of a united Egypt. He wore a double crown of red and white and founded Egypt's earliest dynasty. A dynasty is a ruling family. Normally, control passed between members of a dynasty. Sometimes, however, a new dynasty gained power. Historians divide Egypt's history into periods based on kingdoms and dynasties. The Old and Middle Kingdoms. Historians call the period from about 2686 BC to 2125 BC the Old Kingdom. Like later kingdoms, the Old Kingdom was a period of prosperity, political strength, and cultural achievement. After a period of civil wars, the Middle Kingdom began. It lasted from about 2055 BC to 1650 BC. Pharaohs of the Middle Kingdom dealt with one of Egypt's major environmental challenges, the Nile floods. They built a system of canals that could drain dangerous flood waters and irrigate new farmland. High point and decline. The New Kingdom followed more civil wars and invasions. The New Kingdom lasted from about 1550 BC to 1070 BC. New Kingdom pharaohs conquered lands in Asia and Africa. This was the high point of ancient Egyptian power and prosperity. However, the New Kingdom eventually weakened and broke apart. Egypt faced foreign invasions. One late dynasty gained power only with the help of the Assyrians. Still later, Egypt was conquered by the Persian Empire. In 332 BC, the Greek army of Alexander the Great conquered Egypt. Egyptian government. The pharaoh relied on a bureaucracy, or a system of offices and officials that handled the business of government. The head of Egypt's bureaucracy was an official called the vizier. The bureaucracy collected taxes from farmers. Farmers paid these taxes mainly in the form of surplus crops. The bureaucracy took some of this surplus for itself. It distributed the rest to priests, to pharaohs, and to artisans and merchants who worked for the pharaoh. Egypt's bureaucracy and system of taxation were a model for later governments, including those of today. Let's take a look at our image here. We have this stone carving shows a Middle Kingdom pharaoh wearing the double crown of Egypt. The white crown above is of Upper Egypt, the red crown of Lower Egypt. Two great rulers. Egypt's great pharaohs were powerful figures who shaped its history. Hatshepsut and Ramses II were two famous New Kingdom pharaohs. Hatshepsut. In the story at the beginning of this chapter, you learned about Hatshepsut, one of the few women to rule Egypt. She was the daughter of one pharaoh and the wife of another. When her husband died, he left a son who was too young to rule. So Hatshepsut decided to make herself Egypt's new pharaoh. Some Egyptians did not want to bow to a woman. To gain their support, Hatshepsut carried out all of the rituals expected of a king. Her statues showed her dressed as a king. She even wore the false beard that was a symbol of the pharaoh's power. Although she was a woman, most Egyptians came to accept her rule. The god's wife Hatshepsut executed the affairs of the two lands according to her counsels. Egypt worked for her, head bowed. This was from the 18th dynasty before the Amarna period by Betsy M. Bryan in the Oxford History of Ancient Egypt. Hatshepsut's rule was peaceful. Hatshepsut built Egypt's wealth and power through trade. She sent traders by sea to a land called Punt in East Africa. They returned with precious wood, ivory, gold, and perfumes. Hatshepsut recorded the story of their journey on the stone walls of an enormous temple that she built. Ramses II. Ramses II, who ruled about 200 years after Hatshepsut, was a different kind of pharaoh. What Hatshepsut had tried to do through trade, Ramses chose to do through war. He spent the first half of his time as pharaoh fighting in Canaan and Syria in the Fertile Crescent. In 1275 BC, Ramses II led his army against the powerful Hittites. The two armies fought in a place called Kadesh in present-day Syria. In fact, Ramses II lost many soldiers to the Hittites in the Battle of Kadesh. He later made peace with the Hittites by agreeing on a border. Ramses II was a great builder. During his reign, he built more monuments than any other pharaoh. So let's take a look at our images up here. We have the Egyptian Empire. So we have Syria, Canaan, Lower Egypt, Upper Egypt, and Nubia down here. Notice the pink is the Egyptian Empire city. So notice how it reaches all the way down there and includes a lot of the Nile River. And we have the Mediterranean Sea up here and the Red Sea down here. This image here is the Pharaoh Ramses II defeating Egypt's enemies. All right, thanks very much. We'll check back in with you later.